Sponsored by Kentucky Highlands Investment Corporation, and that's the building that we're in here right now. Kentucky Highlands has been around since the late 60s with a mission of creating jobs in southeastern Kentucky, mainly through investing in companies and also doing this type of thing, providing training and coaching to entrepreneurs and business owners. My name is Jim Carroll, and I'm the Executive Director of the Business Innovation and Growth Center, or we call it the BIG Center for short. It is next door. I'll pop my information up there in case anybody wants to copy that down. That's the center next door. It is a what's called a business incubator, and it is designed to provide office space or light manufacturing space to folks who are getting their businesses started. We make the rent very reasonable, no long-term agreements to reside over there, and you have daily access to somebody like myself who can kind of answer your questions and help you along. Neat thing about that center over there is we have these semi-private cubicles. Chuck's in one of them. And for $150 a month, you can have a professional address over there, have access to the conference rooms, training facilities. We have Wi-Fi internet access over there. So it's just a guy like Chuck who says, I'm thinking about getting this business started and I want to do it outside of my garage, not have to do it at home. We give you a place to do that, but I think more importantly give you connections to folks like myself, fellow entrepreneurs, and also Kentucky Highlands who has funding, and we don't guarantee people who go over there get funding, but it certainly does help if we know you. So that's what we do over there, and my responsibility is to run that organization. And part of what we do is things like this. So we have these training sessions once per month, the third Thursday of every month at 8:30. By virtue of the fact that you are here and you registered and gave us your email address, we will send you a notification of classes, give you an opportunity to register and participate in future classes. So without any further ado, I'm going to get into this class, which is kind of the introductory class to these sessions, and we also do these what we call business boot camps, and this is the introductory session to the business boot camps. Right now we have 2 boot camps going on, one in Clay County and one in Wayne County, and those are getting ready to start back up again. I don't know if anybody's from those areas, but you're welcome to participate in those too. See me about information on that. So there's about Kentucky Highland. Just to tell you a little bit about how we accomplish our mission, we have several different loan programs, but basically I tell people anywhere from $500 loans up to $10 million loans. We've done everything that and in between. We also do equity investments, meaning we will invest in companies, not a loan, but actually invest in the company and take a ownership position in the company. We do that through a couple of programs that we have there. And again, we provide support to entrepreneurs with training and coaching. The Business Accelerator next door, or the incubator, as I mentioned earlier, the Big Center. A couple of other features about that. We also have some wet labs over there. If you know anybody that is doing anything where they have to mix chemicals, life bioscience kind of stuff, we can accommodate them over there. As I mentioned, we have conference rooms, training rooms over there as well. Normally, by the way, we'll be doing these sessions over there, but we had a flood. So we're still getting the reconstruction stage, getting everything back in clean shape over there. So, all right, tell you a little bit more about my background and why I'm here. Oh yeah, please come on in. Yeah. So we have. So I have this background as an entrepreneur myself. I actually spent the first part of my business career life working for Fortune 500 companies that were in telecommunications. And while I was doing that, I had this idea that people could probably use some assistance with making those kind of decisions, knowing how complicated we made it. As I used to work for Bell South and AT&T and those kind of guys, and we made it real complicated for the consumer. So my first business concept was establishing retail stores where people could come in, take a look at all the different options for communications, and we'd help them make some wise decisions on that. And this was back in 1997 when I opened this. This store was in Lexington, Kentucky, and it was by I guess most people's assessment, it was a success. We were on our way to making $1 million in revenue the first year, but it was costing us $999,000 to do it. and we had grand, dreams of opening these things up all over the U.S., and you weren't going to do that at $1 profitability. So we basically scrapped that idea and eventually ended up developing a piece of software. We called the company BBR Wireless Management, and we helped large companies audit and manage their wireless phone bills. Kind of a niche-y thing that we did, but this one really took off and was successful. We had a lot of Fortune 500 clients, saved them millions of dollars. And long story short, and Kentucky Highlands was in fact an investor in this company. And long story short, that we ended up selling that business, and the folks who we sold to just recently got acquired by IBM. So the software that my team developed is now in an IBM product, which is kind of cool. And we've got 25 employees that overnight became IBM employees here in Kentucky. So that was kind of cool too. So that was neat. But that's my background. The first thing I want to point out is you'll hear me use this word entrepreneur a lot. And by definition, I was an entrepreneur for 12 years of my life when I started that business, but I swear I could not spell that word until I started working here and said I was an entrepreneur coach. I guess I didn't really consider myself an entrepreneur, but I absolutely was. And this is my definition up here is an entrepreneur runs a for-profit company with an innovative idea for a product or service that is better, faster, cheaper than what is currently available. And so I'll use business owner, I'll say entrepreneur, I mean the same thing when I'm talking about this definition, but what we're talking about today are typically more entrepreneurial type people and entrepreneurial startups. And they are usually kind of risk takers and doing something different than just, the normal day-to-day, working at, for somebody else type of job. Okay? And we see about three, there's the other picture. We see about three different types of entrepreneurs that come to us. One is what I call the startup entrepreneurs. And those are folks that have an idea to start a new business. Maybe they've been, they might be young folks. They might be somebody who's been doing something else for a while and has decided to start a new business. We also see what I call transitional entrepreneurs. And those are people who are generally older and they've been doing something all their life and they find a better, faster, cheaper way to do what they've been doing. And so they just kind of transition over to running a business themselves rather than working for somebody else. And the other, what I call growth entrepreneurs. They may have been a business right now, their own business right now, and say, but I want to do something, I want to take it to the next level. I want to do something different. I want to start marketing over the internet or whatever it might be. So we see those as well. But I got the picture of these two guys on here to point something out that you might find interesting, that most people, when they hear the name entrepreneur, they think of young college dropout, you think of the Bill Gates and, those kind of guys. But actually the average age of the entrepreneurs today are between 40 and 45 years old. Okay, so a lot of it's not just young folks getting an idea to start something, which that happens a lot, but also folks who have been in a career like myself. I was in a career for 10 years before I decided to do something entrepreneurial myself. So there's a lot more of those folks out there than I think people actually realize. When I'm talking to, I do a lot of lecturing to college age kids, and I say, because they'll ask me, what's the best time to start? And I said, well, it's really two times. It's when you're just out of college or when you've kind of made some money and you got some money in the bank. In both cases, you're trying to mitigate risk. What I tell the college folks, I said, you guys don't realize you need to make $50,000 a year to live. So it's okay for you guys to start a business and have it struggle and that kind of stuff at first. So, but it's usually young and old, and that's where they tend to come from. This guy up here is, his name is Carl Schramm. He is the president of the Kauffman Foundation. Kauffman Foundation is out of Kansas City, and they are the organization that kind of, they're a nonprofit, but they're the ones that really support entrepreneurship nationwide. And he wrote this book called The Entrepreneurial Imperative, which is a really good book. I recommend that you read it if you're an entrepreneur. But he made this point. He said, for the United States to survive and continue its economic and political leadership in the world, we must see entrepreneurship as our central comparative advantage. When you really think about it, you go all the way back to the history of our nation, and it was all about entrepreneurship. I mean, the folks that came over here hopped on boats and came over here, 300 years ago, they were entrepreneurs. They were trying to get away from the status quo and what was going on over in Europe. But that's carried on through the history of our country, and I'm going to give you a couple statistics in here that will indicate that. I also read this recently that, and I thought it was interesting perspective. I think, again, when we hear this word entrepreneur, we think of this fast growth, like I said, Bill Gates and Michael Dell and all these kind of folks. But there are a lot of very active entrepreneurs here in our community. But this guy made this point. He said somewhere along the way, there was a change in America's entrepreneurial spirit. And I think it happened like back in the 90s when these folks were starting these companies and becoming billionaires overnight. It's no longer about creating a job for oneself, rather it's seen as an exploitation of some genius idea. That's really not what it's all about. Entrepreneurship is about, first of all, creating wealth for yourself, okay? Whether you ever hire an employee, whether you ever become a multinational